Good evening, savages. Welcome to another episode of Savagely Paranormal.
Hi.
Morning, or evening, or whatever.
Today, we are going to be covering some interesting topics. We have our first topic is going to be mental health effects of a paranormal haunting on a client. And then we're also going to go over the effects of a paranormal haunting on investigators that come in. So, yeah, it should be a
There's
fun
effects
evening.
on us.
Well, sometimes we have residual effects.
Well, that last one, we were down for like 3 days.
Yeah. Our last investigation, for our Geneva house, it was an interesting week.
Yeah, it was.
After we were all pretty drained and just mentally not
Off
with it.
kilter. We were just kind of, not even a word to describe it, really. We just weren't ourselves.
Some of us.
Yeah.
Some of us were fine.
Yeah.
Some of us were fine.
Yeah.
The rest of us.
I'm always off kilter, so it's kind of hard to tell when I'm affected or not.
The rest of us were just extremely exhausted.
Kind of like in a dream state for a couple days.
Yeah, we were in a daze. It was hard. It was rough. It was a rough week.
It was.
Not being able to feel anything that you normally feel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, having to like go through evidence and try to figure out what is going on and how we can close the case, so to speak.
Yeah, it was definitely tough. And then you kind of get the residual from the clients because you get their frustration and their anxiety on top of your own. Just kind of keeps piling and piling and piling, and you just
A little bit of their obsession, if you will.
Yeah.
But then also, we're starting to prepare for our new case now, and I think some of us have had more interesting, horrid things happen than the rest of us. So it's
started having crazy dreams and little shadows out of your peripheral vision, and
feel like you're being watched all the time.
Constantly feel like somebody's standing right behind you and
just staring at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's normal every day for me, so I'm always seeing something moving out of the corner of my eyes.
True. I feel like right now with the case that we're gearing towards now, it's the feeling of being watched has gotten a lot worse for me. I'm used to feeling like I'm being watched because it happens all the time, but this round of...
It's a different kind of feeling watched.
Yeah, it's a different kind of feeling. It's not like something is... You don't stop.
I was trying to increase the creep factor for you.
It's definitely a different feeling of being watched. Like, in my normal day-to-day, I feel like there's somebody standing by me, watching me, trying to communicate, but now I feel like there's just something like hovering weird.
There's a comfort level with your normal everyday feeling like somebody's there. This one, there's no comfort level at all. It's more of a creep factor.
Yeah, it's just like you feel like there's eyes in the dark. You feel like there's eyes in the dark corners, just like watching you, trying to size you up so they know what we're gonna
and
do
it's like,
and how to react to us once we get to our next location.
Yeah. And then I had the feeling to where I wanted to turn around, but in my head I'm like, no, if I turn around I'm gonna see this thing, and so no, I'm not gonna turn around. But if you guys have any questions, concerns, thoughts, feel free to comment, Discord, YouTube, wherever,
Facebook.
You can message me. I've got my tablet here in case anybody has any questions. Hi, Tabby. Hi, Kelsey.
Yay.
We miss you.
Jazz hands for Kels.
Jesse.
So like our next, like we're moving into like now, like our clients, like a normal residual type haunting. There are different levels of hauntings, and with each level, people experience different effects on their mental health. Like a residual haunt, they're gonna, it's gonna be like, oh, I feel like I keep seeing this thing and it's giving me anxiety, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. And
It's kind of like the movie Groundhog Day, where you just you just repeat
It's a
over
loop.
and over and over
and over and over and over loop. But then we move into like an intelligent type haunt that will go out of its way
To make you feel uncomfortable.
Not always, just to make sure that you know that they're there.
And
Which I guess the average person, it probably would make them feel uncomfortable. We'd just be like, "Hi, what do you want?"
Right. But I mean, like, that's when you're getting doors opening and shutting, more footsteps, more voices that you're hearing talk, conversations are going on that you can hear and experience.
You may see things out of your line of vision where you think you see something, but you're not entirely sure.
You look, you can't focus on it.
Yeah.
Or it's not there at all.
Things start disappearing and may come back in a new spot.
Yeah.
And that right there,
it makes you feel like you're losing your mind because
Right.
you're like, I set this here.
Yeah.
I turned around, now it's gone, and now it's
I
in
hate when
another
they do that.
room, sitting
Yeah.
on a bed.
Yeah.
I hate when they do that with my medication.
Yeah, there should be like off limits. Don't touch this.
Right.
Like, I don't care if you're here, just don't do my stuff.
Right?
Yeah. But that's also where it's important to set boundaries too for
Yes.
the entities that are in your location. Like, if you're not comfortable, you need to make it known. Like, no, you're not allowed to touch me. You're not allowed to harm me. You're not allowed to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
You can be here, but I don't want to see you. I don't want to feel you. I don't want to do any of
Right.
that kind of stuff. And most of the time for intelligent hauntings, they just want acknowledgement that they're
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
And then they kind of will follow those ground rules, so to speak.
Yeah.
For the most part. Sometimes it depends.
It
Depends on how
depends.
jerky
It
they are.
depends. If they were a prankster in life, they're going to be one in the afterlife.
Right. And
Depends on if they're benign or malevolent.
Right?
yeah. And like,
Again, we have to give this. Don't investigate your own house to see what it is. Just make up your mind if you want boundaries and set them if you do.
yeah, that's important. Don't investigate your own house because you're opening a whole can of worms.
You're shining a big flashlight up into the sky saying, "Come on."
I know you're here. Come interact with me.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that, like, when they have that obsession, like, I want to know what's here. I want to know what's in this house. And
Right.
then they start obsessing over things. They're inviting more and more and more things.
Yes.
And they're opening those portals and doorways for things, too.
Once you communicate with one, then this one over here says, "Ooh,
They can talk to me there. I'm going to go there.
yep." And then you get that one come over, and then you've got one from over here and over here. And while this one from over here may not be very nice, but you know what? He's going to come anyways.
Yeah.
And you just don't do it. If you are concerned or that curious,
Contact a professional.
yes.
Or as close to a professional as you can get. I don't
Yeah.
claim to be a professional.
No, but
Bev says you had to say that, dang it.
Yes, Bev, we're still waiting.
yes.
But if you have a kid who's likely a beacon unknowingly,
Then she can set her boundaries,
Yes.
and she needs to practice and learn how to dim her beacon.
Even if your child is the beacon, you as the parent of the child can set the boundaries for them. If they're not old enough to recognize that they are
Yeah.
powerful enough to do that, you can be the one that sets the boundaries. You can be like, no, this is my kid. You're not allowed to interact with her. End of discussion. And if you continue on, we will forcefully evict you.
Yes, and if it's one of, if you have kids who don't live at home, but they come over, that's still your house, so you can set the boundaries for your
No,
house.
Ruby.
No.
We're not talking to ourselves. It's a dog.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Man.
Yeah, well, as long as we don't answer ourselves, we're okay.
At least you know you'll get the right answer.
Right?
Sometimes you get the best advice doing that, though.
Usually, yes. It's better than most advice.
Now, like, poltergeist type activity does not respond to boundaries being set
No.
because it's usually a person
Yeah.
that is triggering that type of activity, and
Because they
that
have abilities
case-
that they don't understand, and
in that case, we usually recommend that they like journal out their feelings, try meditation, Reiki, other things to release their emotions, like grounding.
Find a
techniques.
focus.
Yes.
learn
find a focus.
yoga, meditate.
I am not flexible enough for yoga.
Brian will show you how to do yoga. That will be our next podcast.
I think I know the tree stance, and that's about it. Maybe downward dog.
I wouldn't do that around Livy.
I'd be more afraid of Ruger.
Nope, it's Livy. You got to worry about.
She's gonna show you who's on charge.
Yeah.
But now with a demonic type haunting, we're moving in through intelligence into a demonic, which is also an intelligent type haunting, but
Mm-hmm.
a malicious type.
Yeah.
That is where a lot of people have the most mental health effects.
Yes.
Because, you know, it starts off as oppression and infestation, where it's trying to, so to speak, poke the bear to see which buttons it can push
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what is going to set you off the easiest, give them the most response,
And what's going to keep you coming back for more?
what you are afraid of, it is going to do, because it feeds off of that fear and that unknowing and the uneasiness that you
Mhm.
have and the anger. The more you fight with other people that you live with, the more you fear what's going on, the worse the activity gets, because that's how it builds its strength.
Yeah, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger by the turmoil.
I'm afraid of being rich. That hasn't worked for me yet.
But then also you go down, once you go through the different steps, then you become obsessed with it, and it at that point it's pretty much almost as powerful as it's going to be, and then
Yeah.
the next step is
Full
bam,
possession.
you're possessed. And again, just don't do it, because you're not going to realize these stages as you're going through it. You're going to think, oh, everything's fine, it's just a game, I'm just playing around.
And the more the more you call things in, the more you communicate with it, the more it knows that, oh, so if I keep talking to this person,
Mm-hmm.
I can manipulate what they're feeling and how they're feeling. And the angrier that you're going to get is the more power it's going to have to be able to do worse things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the voices aren't all in your head.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that, which we kind of got a little bit off topic of how that affects your mental health. When you're going through this demonic entity thing, you get severely depressed, you get anxious, you get violent, and
You get
go
angry.
Yeah, you
You
go
get-
through these stages, and that's part of why you don't realize what's going on, is because you start off just thinking, oh, I'm just feeling a little run down, oh, I'm a little anxious, and then you go into, now you're just depressed. and-
Unexplained mood swings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more unexplained mood swings you have, the stronger and more powerful your entity is becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it's going to try to influence you to harm yourself, harm somebody else. And that's when it gets really dangerous.
Yes.
And the worse it can influence you, the easier it is to fully possess you,
Yes.
which is not the greatest outcome. It's not what you want. That's not what you want, because then we have to call in the priests and have
This isn't the basis for everything in everybody in the mundane world. This is what we're talking about is in for like supposed or believed hauntings.
Right. We're just general basics.
None of us have a PhD in mental health.
Yeah, no.
But a lot of clients, like even with just residual type hauntings, they feel like they're going crazy because it's the same activity over and over and over again. It's a loop.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand that the entity that they're experiencing can't see them. It doesn't know that you're there. It just does the same thing at a specific time. Or sometimes not even at a specific time. It just does the same thing over and over and over again. Like, your house could have been remodeled 1,000 times, and when the entity lived there at some point in time, it had a completely different floor plan. So you're seeing it go through walls and places that aren't there because the floor plan changed, and it has no idea of what is going on currently for you, like in your current like layout of the house.
So Bev's asks, so the addressing of mental and physical vibes of the living, can that activity be feeding off a menopausal lady?
Yes, because your hormones and your whole electrical balance in your body is going haywire.
Anything, even like preteen, puberty.
Puberty is the height of the attraction age for children and spirits.
Yeah. Like, little babies see spirits really easy. Some smaller children, prepubescent and pubescent children, have a lot of potential to trigger, like, poltergeist-like activity where things are getting moved and doors are getting slammed shut and you hear stuff. But then, like, really, really old people also experience...
But also in the puberty and preteen, you also get a lot of intelligent spirits and hauntings because your body's going through this whole awakening, and that includes, any abilities you may or may not have. It's the whole body function is changing, and you are definitely more susceptible.
Sometimes the imaginary friend isn't so imaginary.
Right?
Yeah. That's why I always ask, like when we go to a client's house, if they have kids, I always ask, do you have a friend that you see all the time? Because children with imaginary friends, sometimes they're not so imaginary.
Right.
And sometimes those imaginary friends are not the greatest influences.
No.
We've seen that a few times.
Yeah.
I've seen that a few times where the imaginary friend is influencing the kid to torture a pet or
the one case I went on where it was influencing the child not to take his daily medication that he needed in order to stay alive.
Yeah. And then, like, shadow people are also a concern with children because they like to influence kids to do things to unalive themselves.
Yeah.
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 We've seen that a few times.
Yes.
That ain't a shadow entity.
And then on the other side of the whole mental health side, not everything is an actual haunting.
Yeah.
There are a lot of mental illnesses that can mimic a haunting. Again, we're not experts. We're just going on what we've learned and what we've seen and heard and read. But schizophrenia can give a lot of the same symptoms, so to speak.
Yeah.
To where you think you're having a haunting.
Yeah. It comes with a lot of, like, auditory and visual hallucinations, and a lot of people think that they're being haunted when they're first experiencing their schizophrenia. So it's really important, if you feel like you're haunted, that you reach out for help.
Yeah.
Because it may not be that you're haunted. It may just be that you need
Right.
extra psychological help.
Right. And there's nothing
Nothing wrong
nothing
with
to
that.
be ashamed of with that. But you always have to look at
The mundane before
yes.
the supernatural.
Yes. Because as much as we would all love everything to be paranormal, but sometimes it just isn't. And, there's other things that may be going on.
And it's also important to remember that just because your house is brand new does not mean that you can't be haunted. There have been a lot of cases that we've gone on that have the house is brand new, just built, and they're still experiencing paranormal activity. Well, that's because
The land's not new.
The land's not new. It's been there for thousands of years, obviously, and
Well, like we were just
people
talking.
have crossed through all of that land, and who knows what they've
Yeah.
practiced on it, what doors they could have opened there.
Yeah.
You could have been a kid down the street from where you live, opening doorways on your property before your house was built. You don't know.
It could have been a burial ground at some point in time. And like we were talking earlier today when we were talking about the show that we're not supposed to say for copyright purposes.
Yeah.
But they bought that house that was
Demon house.
we're not allowed to say that. It was an entity house.
Entity house.
But then they had the house torn down.
Right.
Well, okay, you may have solved part of the problem, but you haven't solved the whole problem because it's still there.
It's still on the land.
Yeah.
And just because you got rid of the house, the physical structure, doesn't mean that it left at all.
No, it just might keep some people from going to see it, but there's still going to be people that flock there just because.
And people
And
still
on
wanna
a
get
technical
results.
account, all land has been technically a burial ground before there were,
True.
cemeteries.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Nomadic tribes will bury their dead wherever, so.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of nomadic tribes in this area where we live, but there's also, like, you have to remember that Native Americans were never really, like, stationary to one specific area. They traveled.
They followed the herds of animals.
Yeah. They traveled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So just because they were here at some point and then over there and over there doesn't mean that, they may have marked where they've buried
Right.
everything. And we have a lot of that too in this area where they're, the Underground Railroad came
Mhm.
through here, so if people were dying, they were just burying them so that
Mhm.
nobody found out that they were here.
Right.
And not all of that is documented here.
Right.
So, yeah, it's unmarked graves are a real problem everywhere.
So how does this affect you guys mentally when you go in?
Well, we have to prepare first of all before we even go.
Yeah,
We
a
have
lot
to
of us
be
do
in
like
the right
meditation,
frame of mind.
grounding, and we have to make sure that we have our light and our grounding turned on so that
Mhm.
we're not just bringing things home with us or bringing things into
Right.
a location.
And not only that, we have to we don't generally see each other every day. We see each other once a week.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes
we like
more,
to get
depending.
together beforehand because we need to complete our unit, so to speak.
Yeah.
We need to get all of our frequencies aligned and
Yeah.
connect with everybody because you're going into
Basically an unknown situation.
right.
Yeah.
You could be
So there-
going in for anything.
There is the stress that'll weigh on you as you go in. It gives you mental strain. You have to physically be capable of doing it. You're going to be walking around a house all night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You really have to listen. That mental strain causes the stress.
It can cause anxiety, like listening to the static off of the SB, the spirit box can cause a lot of like mental stress because you're literally listening to white noise and then you
For hours.
hear glimpses here there of random words that'll pop through. But for the vast majority of it, when you're in the Estes method, it's all just static, and that can be very nerve-wracking if you're not prepared for it.
But then we've also got the compassion fatigue because we go in wanting to help these people, and we are all empaths.
Yeah.
And so we walk in and we feel everything that they're feeling. And then if they have kids, we're picking up what the kids feel, and we're picking up double from the parents because we're picking up what they feel for themselves plus what they feel for their kids. Plus, then again, we're picking up the energy from the actual location. So we are just basically vacuum sucking all of this in.
Yeah, you're like bombarded as soon as you walk into a location. Like, you are starting to pick up different pieces. It's like putting a giant jigsaw puzzle together, trying to filter out what is actually happening versus just the mind games that are going on with the people, and trying to like piece it all together into like a perfect little puzzly picture,
all while standing in one of those wind machines where the stuff spins around and you've got to try to catch it.
You're trying to grab everything that you think is important to put it in a place, and then trying to also help the people that you're there for. Sometimes it's easier than others. Like, sometimes our clients are very like straight to the point, like, this is exactly what we've experienced. And then other times you have clients where like they're like, I don't know, we've had this happen, but they're all over the place. Like, oh yeah, that one time 5 years ago I heard this noise.
But that wasn't here.
But
that was at my other house.
Right. So we're it's a lot of trying to puzzle the pieces together, so to speak, and like filtering out what is important for this location versus like other locations that they may have lived at before that have had experiences at. It's really just a matter of, like,
all of this culminating together after an investigation. It can actually stick with you for a couple days.
Yeah, which is what we experienced the last time.
Yeah,
we were at our Geneva location. Some of us were more affected by it the last time than others.
Yeah. And then the other thing too, for us as a team, since you don't know what you're walking into, you have to be prepared mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Because what if you're going into the house of a psychopath?
Yeah, which is important,
right,
to remember.
B, what if you are walking into something that could potentially be demonic?
Yeah.
Then you've got to protect yourself, but you've also got to protect your team members. But because we are the way we are, we're also going to want to protect the people who live there.
Yeah.
So you have to be on guard the whole time you're there.
That can be
and that's
lot
exhausting.
It's a lot of strain on the body and on the mind to go into these places and not know exactly what you're going into. But like our intake process, so to speak, like
it's pretty in depth, yeah.
Our interview section where people are telling us like things that they've experienced and what they feel they're dealing with, that gives us a lot of information. A lot of really, really good information. It is definitely like a window into what we could be walking into versus, like having somebody call us, oh, hey, I think I'm being haunted. I need you now. Can you come now?
Yeah.
And then we're like, what are we doing? Like,
right.
What exactly is going on here? We don't know because, they haven't filled out the whole intake paperwork. And it's really important if you have a team come in and they have 50,000 questions for their intake.
There's a reason for those 50,000 questions.
Fill them out. It's best to the best of your abilities because that gives them that idea of what they're walking into.
So Glitch asks, do you all pray for protection when that happens?
We have rituals, so to speak, for lack of a better word. We have little protection, either prayers or things that we say before we go in. We all have our different designated protection symbols that we take. I have a rosary that I have had blessed that I take with me. I have my Saint Michael pendant. I have a couple other things that are special to me that I set the intention to protect me. And then when we are done at an investigation, we have a whole thing that we go through. Again, I don't want to use the word ritual, but it's the only one coming to mind.
Right.
Not like a witchcraft type ritual.
We have our own precautions.
Yes, we have a little saying that we say as we're leaving. And you guys can speak to what you guys use for
I have
protection.
like a fistful of, probably more than a fistful of gemstones that I take with me.
Yeah.
That are good for different things. Plus, I have a Saint Michael pendant that I carry stuffed in with my gemstones, and I have a Adventure Teen necklace that I wear at every single investigation. I usually wear it all the time, but I don't have it on today because it's soaking in salt to cleanse it because it's caught up a lot of extra gunk.
But I don't do anything. I just go in completely open.
Yeah. But I mean, our team, we always meet before every single investigation. We usually like grab dinner so that we all have a chance to like sit down, be a team.
She's going Wednesday.
Grab.
Sorry, I was distracted by the dog hobbling up the stairs.
So we have, like, you know, we all meet for dinner. We all hang out beforehand. We kind of
get our vibe in the sync.
Yes. Yeah, we really do. It's really a matter of getting all of our energies in sync, being familiar with everybody's energy that we're working with.
Because every day we all put off a different energy.
Yeah.
Because we all have our own stuff going on in our day-to-day life. And
having that time to, like, feel each other's energies and just be with each other helps us when we go into a location so that, you know, if I'm feeling April's energy, I know that, you know, it's her, it's not the entity that's in the house.
And because we've all synced with everybody's energies, like, I may not be in the same room as Megan, but I can feel when she's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so we kind of can keep track of everybody that way.
Off of each other. Like, we all, like...
Unless it's me.
We'll use Kelsey as an example because there have been times where, like, she'll be, like, in the Estes method and, like, her face will be completely fine and then her energy shifts and then she freaks out.
And we can just feel that energy change.
Know that something's going on. It doesn't matter, like, if you're in the same room with her or not. We just know. Like, when we were at the Geneva house the one time, she was... I don't want to say jumped. She wasn't really jumped. She was affected by an entity that was there, and I had my back to her because I was sitting in a closet, and I just felt that there was something not right, and we all just swarmed her, so to speak.
Yeah,
but it helps to know your teammates. It helps that. Now we're all kind of sort of...
I don't know, y'all have lost me.
Well,
where did he go? I don't know.
We don't worry about you as much, though.
Right. You
have your own set of boundaries that things...
What boundaries?
No, but... Okay.
But you have your own set of, like, protections that you use.
Yes, that's kind of what I meant.
To keep things away from you. Like...
When something bothers you...
You're like, I'm gonna poke the bear to find out what it is.
We know we don't have to worry about you like that. Like
when something bothers Kelsey, we know that it's poking her, and then
and we need to
be...
go poke it back to get it away from her.
Yeah. You can...
That's what I'm there for.
Right.
You can go off on your own, though, and not be jumped and not, like, have... You can chase the things because they don't chase you.
Yeah.
Everybody else,
they run from
not
you.
so
They don't
much.
chase you back.
Everybody else, not so much.
I'm gonna poke the bear and find out what it is
Yeah.
But, you know...
I mean,
while it
like-
runs around the house.
I like poking the bear sometimes too, but they like to poke me back. So I like knowing that y'all got my back if I get poked.
Yeah. And it's normally, like, me and Dowsing Rods. Everyone's just like, okay, we're gonna follow you.
Yes.
Because it's gonna lead you to where it wants us to go.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is the exact freaking opposite depending on what kind of
Right.
entity we're dealing with.
And then we know when we hit a lull, okay, it's time to pull out the pendulum because we're bored and nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. Let's pull out the spirit box and
Mm-hmm.
all the other goodies and see, you know, if we can get it to come back to us or if we have to go and chase it down.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's us chasing things down.
Because they like to hide.
They do.
Because they're all big and bad until we come in to figure them out. And then they're like, nope.
If we have any questions in the YouTube chat, it's gonna be kind of hard to know.
I know. Producer.
He's in the bathroom, I think.
No.
What's up?
Oh,
We just wondered if there were any questions because
But
Are you guys done with the mental health portion?
yes,
I think so.
I think
Okay.
we've pretty much covered it.
So Bev wants to know what resources are available for people who want to find out more information about their home.
oh, so if you want to find out on like who has lived on your property, died on your property, that sort of thing,
Sorry,
definitely check the historical society, and they will be able to pull out all of the records
Mhm.
from everything that has ever been and anybody that has ever lived on your land.
You can usually find stuff online too. There are,
The newer things.
yeah,
depending.
there
Oh.
are tons and tons and tons of land maps you can find going way back in history.
Yeah. There's
Um,
native-land.ca will tell you what tribes have lived in your area. Is something that I use a lot to figure out.
I would think you'd be able to find some information about your house through public records
You
too.
can
Yeah,
on
the
I think it's the
library.
auditor's website. You can find out previous owners of the land.
The genealogy department at Morley Library
Okay.
in our area. That's not for everybody, but sometimes like the librarians will be able to help you find information.
And that's a good thing too, because if you guys contact us to investigate your house,
That's
we
what
do a
we
lot
do.
of the legwork for you.
Yeah. A lot of the legwork.
It
It's a lot of research.
is. Takes lots and lots of hours.
Yeah.
And guess what? We do it all for free.
But we go to a lot of like out of the box kind of places to do research too. Though,
Mhm.
like different historical societies will have different stuff, and not every single historical society or every single auditor's page will have all of the information that you need. So sometimes, depending on if the land maps have changed and like they've changed counties or whatnot, like your property has changed in different places, you would have to go to other resources.
And a lot of it's taking one map and putting the other map over it, and
And
then
putting
the
a
other
third
map
map.
over it, and then you've still got to figure out where exactly on this map you are now versus back then.
Yeah,
That's fun.
it's always fun. Always
Mhm.
sometimes.
Bev says it's not that easy. Property was in Geauga County long ago. Most records are lost. Any other places people can go?
I would say probably the courthouse.
Well, if that's
Maybe-
the records that got lost, wasn't there
Yeah.
some big fire that destroyed a lot of that stuff. I don't remember what
Yeah.
county it was, but there was a fire that destroyed a lot of that kind of stuff. There is
Different newspapers might be able to pull stuff.
yeah, and there's a couple websites
County
I found
records,
that
possibly.
there's a couple websites I found. I will see if I can find them again and post the links to them because they are really good resources from way back that you can put in the parcel number or
Yeah.
because the address may not be the same, but the parcel number is at least going to be
Somewhat close.
somewhat consistent.
Yeah.
So if I can find those, I will post them.
We should be able to find something somewhere. If it was Geauga County, then we should be able to go through some of the different resources for Geauga County to find something on the property. There has to be records of it somewhere.
Yeah,
I would
but if
think.
it's one of the ones that was in that fire, they pretty much were gone.
Yeah.
But we should be able to find at least before and after, and then piece by piece put
Yeah,
it back
piece it
together.
together. Yeah. Well, we might have to look through like the auditor's records and
Mm-hmm.
stuff because those would be different than like the census and stuff like that. So like just because some of the records were lost doesn't mean that everything was lost.
Right, and sometimes you may have to go to like the census bureaus to find out. Well, so and so said they lived at this location
Right.
back in 1942. Even though there's nothing listed for who owned that property because the records were lost. So, and then too, there is a lot of stuff that gets stored in government databases, even though Geauga might not have them in theirs. You can kind of backdoor your way around through there sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes some of the bigger libraries, like the congressional libraries and stuff, have copies of the county records and stuff, so we might still be able to find it, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah.
But that's something that our team can help you research for.
Just take a little more legwork, but it's got to be out there somewhere, and there's probably a time frame missing, but if we get enough around it, we can piece it back together.
Kind of, sort of. We might not get everything, but we'll get enough to give us an idea of who has lived and died on the property and stuff like that. What kind of fires there were, which I know happened at Bub's house. There was a fire. We don't know if anybody died in it, but there was a fire. I know that. But a lot of, like, in our area, there was a big fire that wiped out a lot of records, like historical records. But there has to be copies of that information somewhere. It's just a matter of calling around to ask different places.
I don't know. I would think that the bigger ones, like as far as
state
deeds
census.
and stuff like that, would be they would be somewhere in the state, and then from there, the U.S. government. But I'm sure all the local copies would be gone, but because that was before the whole internet, but it's got to be out there somewhere.
Some places may have actually uploaded all of their files onto the internet, so we might be able to still find it. Yeah.
Doesn't look like there's any other questions. What does everybody want to end with?
Don't
Stay
forget
safe.
to like,
subscribe, turn on notifications,
and
join
us on Discord.
Link is below.
Link is below.
Somewhere down there.
Somewhere down there. See you later, savages.